It's casual, not formal. It's hosted by Rory Penland, and Renee in tow. It's time to start the show. 1, 2, 3, go!
Welcome to another episode of It's Casual. I hope Diane Marie Coll wasn't watching because somebody didn't put the new opening up. Anyway, Renee.
Yes, I will next week. I didn't have time to do the logos, but yes, Diane Coll did. But Diane does want everyone to know that she did record a new version of that song, and Rory did put that behind the video. So all that's left is a little bit of tweaking, and then we'll get to see it next week.
Do you know how I know?
How do you know?
Because the keyboard thing doesn't match up in the new one like it did in the original one.
Don't point it out. Don't point it out. Don't mention it. Don't mention it.
So when it goes in the old video, it happens right when Carol Stein starts playing her piano.
Beautiful. I know.
But
I love it.
Because I added some clip, I wanted to add some people to our opening, like Norm Lewis, Ray Buffer, Andrea Powell. So some guests that we've had more recently that I felt should be in the opening. So and it's got a did you see the ending yet?
No, I still haven't. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I will.
I put a new ending on it that I think Renee is going to be tickled with. I think she's going to love it.
We will unveil it next week. I'll see it before next week, but we will unveil it next week. So make sure you're all tuning in to see that.
So, we've got a lot going on. Now. We did our new movie show last night. Two guys and sometimes a gal talking movies. And that went really well, man. And I had a great time talking about Steve Martin movies. And you did as well. You were there, and you were. We had the gal. This show.
I was sometimes a gal. I was sometimes a gal. Yeah,
we had the gal that show, so I'm very happy. And next week we'll talk about Mel Brooks movies, and we're talking to Pan about doing the improv show next Monday.
Yes.
So I'm excited about that. It'll be the first time that I've improved. Officially improved with Renee. So I'm very excited about that because I know I like her characters. I love her characters, and I'm excited about doing characters together.
Well, when I met you, we did a role in dating arena improv.
Yes,
very funny.
Okay, I guess you could say that was officially us doing.
That was officially our improv
together.
We did. Yes.
And Andrita's show. That's right. I should really think about Drita. We've had Yarina go head to head with Grodzki.
Yeah, he's an interesting fella. Let me tell you.
I haven't brought him out in a long time.
Yeah, he's been a lot's going on in that part of the world.
He's happy spending Putin's money in California,
Yeah, I think that he has his own life going on. There's too much going on right now with him. So that's what it is.
We got a great show tonight. One of our favorite people is here in the studio with us. And we're going to go off the rails. He and I talked this afternoon and we agreed it's time to go off the rails. He's got some things he wants to tell us about, some exciting stuff coming up. And after that, who knows where we'll go. I thought we were going to bring Jason Scott Lee contacted me and Fred requested me. I sent him one of my many messages that I send to people saying, hey, would you like to come on the show? This is what the show is all about. I sent him a couple of links to shows like Norm Lewis and John Biner so they can see what we do. And I got a hit from Jason Scott Lee, who's in Hawaii.
You got a big one on the line, Rory. You got a big one.
Yeah. So he's in Hawaii now. And he starred as Bruce Lee in the Bruce Lee story, the Dragon, the Legend of Bruce Lee.
That's how I first encountered him, was watching that.
He's in a lot of. He's been in a lot of stuff, a lot of TV, and a lot of action film type
And
stuff. Sometimes he
voiceover
plays
work.
villains, which I think is cool. You know, like in Universal Soldier, he was a villain in one of those.
Yep.
So he's going to come on May 2nd. We thought we would have him come on with Lars this week on this show, but he didn't get back to me in time. So we decided to bring him on May 2nd. So I'm real excited about that. I hope he doesn't pull a Scott Eastwood on us.
I like how now that's become a term, a Scott Eastwood, like to do a Scott Eastwood.
Don't do a Scott Eastwood, man.
Where you say you're going to show up and then you just don't at the last minute. But Scott Eastwood, like,
if I call him out enough, maybe like, hey, he'll come on the show, maybe.
But Scott Eastwood liked your impression of his dad, so I always think of him with regards to that. You know. Rory. Oh no, we lost him. Unfortunately, we lost Rory. That's all right though, because we have Lars Nagel here, and the one thing I know is he's got his guitar and he's ready to go. So, Rory, you came back, so I was going to introduce Lars to come on since you were gone.
Was that me?
That was you. Yeah.
Because I saw you and me swirling around there. I'm sorry.
Okay. There's swirling. There was lots of swirling.
So it said internet connection thing. I hope that doesn't happen all through the show. So, yeah, let's go ahead and bring up Lars Nagel, one of our favorite people.
Here. We love him.
There he is.
Yay.
Look at all those record albums. Man, vinyl is still alive in that house.
Yeah.
Vinyl is vinyl.
And you got a thing that you do on Facebook where you do like 500 records, right? You're like on number 280 something, something like that, or 15,000 records.
Yeah, actually, I did. No, we did. There was an initial list, I guess, starting during the pandemic when somebody said, post 10 of your favorite records to take to your stranded island, right? So I did, and it just wasn't enough. I upped it to 1,000 because if I'm going to go to some shitty island, why would I bring 10 records? You know what I mean? So I did. So
I don't know how you'll make electricity to run that record player, but
well, if they want you to bring 10 records, then there's got to be some sort of something set up, I guess. No, I actually did. I did 1,000, Rory, believe it or not.
Wow. And there they are behind you. Your record store.
Yeah, some of them. Yeah. Some of them. Well, I used to actually have. I used to have a lot, like a lot. But then I've sold thousands upon thousands and kind of just keeping. I didn't want a dead collection anymore. I kind of just wanted just a specific bunch, and then I buy and sell a little bit now. I don't have the collector's thing years ago.
Just the top 500.
Yeah, a little more, maybe. How you doing, man?
I'm good. I was going to ask you. We haven't seen you in a while on the show. You came on early in the second season, so it's been a while since we've seen you. So what's been going on with you as far as creativity and what have you worked on since then?
The creativity part. This mic isn't booming on you, is it? If I'm talking,
no, no, you sound great.
Well, I was fortunate to just have finished my new CD, which is called Tomorrow Never Knows. Do I have it here? Cool, I got like 8,000 copies of it, but where is it? Here it is, and it looks like this for you all to see. And
no, this is so you're the only one.
Well, it's funny because you're my only one that you pointed out right there. Is I actually put it out, this EP, because the other one, Tomorrow Never Knows, took so long to make that I was getting restless, and we had a few songs in the can from the previous two records sessions, and so I released it, and then eventually Tomorrow Never Knows. So basically, I got two new CDs out, and people seem to like it, so that's a cool thing. And
awesome.
I wanted to do a little plug here for an amazing business. What are they calling it? The Feral Cat Program of Georgia. And what I do is half of the sales of anything that not just my new album, but any record that I made, half the sales go straight to the Feral Cat Program of Georgia. And Dr. Jennifer Howes is a super rad woman who runs the place. So I'm really blown away by the sales. It's been fantastic. It's been great for me. It's been great for the cats. And
Well, there you go.
yeah,
It's good for the hip catch.
win-win. It's a win-win.
There you go. It's good for the hip catch. Yeah, man. Can we get a sample of some of your new music? Would you like to play something for us?
Yeah, man. I can do what I did the other night at the Star Bar. We had a BLT Fest, not one, but number two, that I want to plug my dear friend, the host with the most, Mr. Thomas Chesh, who worked very hard in putting it together and putting all the artists together. And
yeah,
because I didn't have that much time to shoulder the burden the last 6 months on the home front here. My mom has entered hospice. We had to skip palliative care because of insurance reasons, leaving the hospital. So you know, that's where she's at. So basically, I'm a full-time caretaker now. And it does take, yeah, it's just, I mean, you know, it is what it is, but it does take time. So big shout out to Tom for you know, putting it, really, he did it by himself, just putting it together. And thank you to Johnny, shout out to Johnny Thomas who helped out with it. So, but at any rate, so I played the early last Sunday night, I think it was, and I had a couple of brand new songs. So if you like me to, I can roll one of them off here, and we can do a couple more a little later. Is that cool?
Sure. Wonderful.
Do a little check here. Hey, Rory, can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
All right, here we go. Learn, let go. Cheating on time, running down back streets of yesterday. Yeah, tomorrow may come, you don't belong there anyways. We're stepping on each other's ghosts, the ones who hurt the most. If you want someone to hold, learn to let go. There's a new kid in town, making the rounds almost every night. Yeah, you wash it away, wish it could stay up like Christmas lights. Faith, it comes and goes, try to keep it, it always knows. If you want someone to love, learn to let go. It's a pretty goodbye to a pretty good time, still on your feet. Local idols, broken titles are drowning in their defeat. All your life you push so hard, still the bright lights burn in your heart. Can you tell me how to outlive all of our sorrows? So you whiten your teeth, get your hair right for your talent show. Yeah, you know it's a lie, expect me to buy you're an artist now. Well, you effed up and you're down, you've been told and had a clown. If you want someone to hold, learn to let go. Learn to let go. Carry me home. Learn to let go. All right. Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. Running down the night, it's plain to see what's right. You looked at me and said, I wish I could stay. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. So what was the inspiration for that song? If you don't
Hey,
mind me
Rory, I didn't hear you say.
I'm sorry.
Still can't hear you.
Oh my goodness.
I hear you. You were cutting out.
Okay. How about now?
I hear you now.
Okay.
Yeah,
I asked
you're
what was
back,
the inspiration for that song?
Let's see. It's funny because it's brand new, and you in the beginning, I look at the lyrics. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Even I had them the other night as well. I don't know. I don't know, man. This is a difficult one to
Sometimes
say.
a song just comes to you.
It wasn't. Yeah, it does. I mean, I guess if there's, it's whatever you want it to be, but maybe to me, it's just what the title is. If 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 you want to be able to, I don't know, man. I guess I'm a little lost in it, but basically, if you want to, if you're hanging on to something, you ain't living. You know what I mean? And you're not
Yeah.
letting them live. So maybe whatever that is, can be anything. And I suppose that's what it is. At least
Right.
it was the kickoff point to me.
Again, sometimes a song just comes, and you write it down and you record it, and you sing it, and you record it. So that makes sense. A lot of our fans.
The easier one.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, go ahead. Sorry.
A lot of our fans on Cosmos and in Come On to My House and SDF know that you're a huge Elvis fan.
You got it.
He is.
You got since
He,
I
yeah,
was.
he is one of your heroes. So tell us about where that came from.
Yeah.
How it came to be.
I became a fan. I'm going to say this, maybe the summer of. I'm trying to always remember if it was 76 or 77. If it was the summer that he died, and they played all the. They started. I mean, I grew up in Sweden, so. But that summer when the fall when after he passed away, they were playing every movie on television, and you couldn't miss him for anything, even if you were 6, 7 years old. Well, I guess I was 5 or 6.
Now, was that in Sweden?
I'm going to say it was 1970.
They played all those movies.
Yeah. Oh, sure.
Yeah. See, they do that in other countries. They do that in China. If somebody passes away, they will run all of their movies and all of their stuff on TV for like a couple of weeks. But they don't do that here.
It was not. No, it was nonstop. But I'm going to say it was a year before he died. But I'm going to say 1976. When you're growing up in Sweden, ABBA was obviously somebody. And I still listen to ABBA, or they would raise your taxes even more if you didn't. So ABBA was an influence. It was a Swedish singer-songwriter, and then came the Beatles and the Stones and so forth. But Elvis was somewhere in the middle there, and I'd heard a song. I'd heard Jailhouse Rock. That's how it started, but I didn't know the name of it. So my mom took me to a record store, and we bought a single, the 45. I'm thinking this in 76, and I came home and I put it on, and it was Bill Haley and the Comets, "Rock Around the Clock." And I was so disappointed. Now that's a good song, right? And he was great, but I was like, "Well,
but that's not what you wanted.
This is not that cool, dude." No. So we actually went to, and I'm going to show you because I still got the record. If I find it,
wow!
We went to where we went back to the record shop, and we picked up this very copy. And this came out in 1976. It was 76. It was brand new at the time. It's just a simple top 40 greatest from the Sun Sessions and RCA, right?
Yeah.
And I remember the first track, it said rock in it. So I'm thinking, okay, maybe that's it. Right. So some friends of mine were playing Monopoly or some board game. And I remember I put that on the turntable and I heard that that F to G, I think. And the snare crack. And I was like, oh my God, this is it. And then came, oh yeah, then came the baddest ass vocal I've ever heard. And that was the last time I gave a shit about a board game, you know?
Wow.
So
and
yeah,
again, he did sing that badass because a lot of his songs, you know, he had a kind of a smooth kind of sound to him, like when he sang the love songs. But when he starts that song, when it want to a party in the county, I mean, he's just getting the grit into it. I agree.
Yeah, and it's a funny kind of lever installer song because it's kind of it was a, you know, it was a bit of a joke, you know, it wasn't meant to be a serious song. And you just have to listen to the lyrics, right, to the verses. And
right.
But Elvis deadpanned it. They said, which made it so great that he was just sort of, he was somebody, I can't remember who said this, if it was Bruce Springsteen who said this, that Elvis was, you know, laughing his ass off and being dead serious at the same time. And you never really knew. And anyway, so yeah, that song took it off for me. And ever since then, you know, I've really been a, you know, heroes. I don't know, that's that's a big word. You know what I mean? I think he was like everybody else, but he just had this extraordinary talent. He had more talent than that was. Yeah, I mean, he was probably too talented for his own good. And if there was anybody who ever left too much on the table, it was, as an artist, it was probably him.
I remember I had the Gold Records CD. It had the red background, it had the gold records, and again, it had all of his gold records from the early days on it. I used to play the hell out of that. I like best of CDs where you get the creme de la creme, you know. The Beatles red and blue albums were my favorites when I was growing up. You know, they had the best tracks, you know. And then I started putting some other albums in there with it. But yeah, we talked before the show about the movie that just came out about Elvis.
Yeah.
You know, and I said the guy's name in our conversation, Austin. His name is Austin. His first name is Austin. The guy that played Elvis in this new movie, Austin Taylor, maybe.
Butler. Yeah.
Austin Butler. Okay, Austin Butler. I think he was just on Saturday Night Live. He did a great job. Yeah. Tell us your thoughts about that movie and that version of Elvis's life.
To me, it's the best film. It may be the best film ever made about him, other than maybe the John Carpenter film from 1979 that Kurt Russell did.
Right.
Ironically, of course, Kurt Russell's very first acting role, I think he was 11 years old, was the Elvis film. It happened at the World's Fair. I think they shot in Seattle, right? And he kicked Elvis in the shin and blah blah. And that was the very first acting role. And I guess we'll have him many years later. In 1979, he was the first one to kick it off, to play him. So anyways, apart from that, which I can't remember, I haven't seen it in a long time. With the new Elvis film, I think you have to. I had to continue to remind myself that it's a movie. It's not a documentary.
Right.
And I wish they would have given a little more time to, to Aloha from Hawaii, to the satellite special. They gave that about 5 seconds. They spent a lot of time on the 68 comeback, which is cool because it obviously put him back in the game. But they gave nothing. They gave no love to the Hawaii special. And the 70s wasn't all a drag. I mean, he made great records. and he had great shows, and he had obviously he was up and down a lot more. There was clearly a decline in his personal life and so forth. But he still recorded a lot of great songs, and that Hawaii special in '73. That's the first time he was the first artist to ever have done that. Up until that point, Colonel Parker wanted to do this in the '60s, but it was only for sports at the time, and he had been working on it for a long time. So basically, Elvis kicked off what in the '80s and '90s, all those big HBO specials that the Stones did and so forth, pay-per-view and whatnot. So, and it was such a fantastic performance. The rehearsal that they did the night before is maybe my favorite, when he talks to Jack Lord from the Jack Lord is in the audience. Have you seen this?
I think I have it. Yeah, I think I have seen it. I think I remember that. Yeah,
it's great. He said, my favorite actor is in the audience, Mr. Jack Lord, and he goes, Elvis, Hawaii 5-0, man, Hawaii 5-0. So that was such a fantastic performance, and anyways, back to the film. I thought overall, Austin probably captured his soul the way no one has ever done before. He did, to me, I'm probably the only one saying this, but I think he looked more like John Travolta than he did Elvis. But I think he captured Elvis's soul and just his being in the way that has never been done before, and that is far more important than anything else. He was excellent.
I felt like when he was doing young Elvis, that he captured that spirit and that what young Elvis was like. But again, I've got to go back to the Carpenter movie for. I mean, Kurt Russell was the grown Elvis. It was the Elvis that had to deal with the stupid movie scripts and what happened after. Like you said, when we started going on the road and touring, which is what he really loved to do. He really loved that.
Yeah.
He didn't like doing the movies and the TV so much, but going out on the road live to the audiences, that's what he really seemed to enjoy and love.
Well, he didn't like doing those particular movies. I think he enjoyed maybe the first three. Loving You, Jailhouse Rock was number 3. Number 2 was maybe we talked about this earlier today. I don't know if it was King Creole. I mean, he was just looking for better properties, But I think he came. It's easy to say, looking back 40, 50 years, saying, well, he should have stepped up and maybe said, well, I'm not doing these films and so forth. But he came from that grassroots school that Jerry Lee Lewis and Chuck Berry and all those guys. You didn't talk about as an entertainer. You strictly talked about entertainment, and that's what you did. You didn't have opinions. I mean, you did, but you were not going to foist them on other people. And I think Elvis just he basically played by the rules, and creatively it clearly hurt him.
I mean, his family raised him to be polite and not, question authority. And I mean, some of those scripts were so prefab. I mean, one of the scripts was so bad that they passed it down to Roy Orbison, and he did it. It was was it the guitar?
Yeah,
like a Western, like a guitar. The man with the guitar gun or something. Fastest guitar or something like that.
Man, Charo maybe.
Again, they were just trying to crank about and make money. Elvis was a business. He was a commodity. And they were just who was the producer of most of those? Hal Wallace.
Hal Wallace.
Was what I want to say.
And he was, he was right. He was rightfully angry because he knew that his own movies were funding all the big pictures of the time, all the artistic films, and Elvis was banging out 3 or 4 of those type of movies a year, and they were obviously making good money, and they were funding the important films of the time, and then at the same time he was watching the Rolling Stones and the Beatles, who had a completely different freedom that he had. If they wanted to talk about the Vietnam War, like Lennon said, we're not going back to America. on that last tour, the tour before the last, if we don't get to talk about the Vietnam War, we're not going to, you know what I mean? And Elvis just wasn't, again, it was that generation where he was a little bit stuck in it. So a little bit was brought on by himself, but also it was how he was brought up and the era he came from that he brought into the 60s. So
yeah. Oh, did we lose you?
Oh boy. That was so interesting too. I was every
he was
word.
pulling it in there.
Yeah, I know.
I just saw a message too that Billy Gardell, a comedian I used to work with many years ago, is following me on TikTok now, and I'm very excited about that.
Oh, congratulations!
I hope to get him on the show because he's a really funny comic, and he's been in a lot of movies playing characters, usually walk-on characters. That are really funny. Like he's the security guy in Bad Santa.
Well, if he's following you, you should be able to reach out to him.
Yeah,
right?
I should reach out to him.
Oh yeah, if he's following.
I haven't talked to Billy in years. There he is. You're back.
That was weird. It completely dropped off. It took me back to the email.
Oh wow. So yeah, you were talking about Elvis and how he felt he was being given these movies and he couldn't really kind of rebel against the bad scripts and the cranking 3 or 4 of them out a year to make money for other productions and stuff and for the studio.
He could have, but he just chose not to do it. And
he was too polite.
It's easy to fault him for it, but at the same time, he was so young. People forget how young the guy was, and he had a lot of people on his payroll. So there was a lot of moving parts there. And luckily he got out of it. I wish he would have, in some ways, I wish he would have taken The Star Is Born in 73 or 4, whenever that was, when it was offered to him, opposite of Barbara Streisand.
Yeah, that was Chris Christopherson, right?
Yeah.
Wow.
I never saw the remake. Sure.
Yeah, wow, that would have been very different with Elvis.
I guess the thinking at the time was, and again, maybe this time Colonel Parker was right, but he felt that maybe this film, playing a strung out rock and roll star, it's a little too close to home. Yeah. But at the same time, maybe it would have been the right, maybe he would have nailed it.
I used to joke in my comedy act, that Pat Boone, starred in Journey to the Center of the Earth with James Mason. And Elvis was at the top of his game in 59. I was like, what would that movie have been like if they had cast Elvis instead of Pat Boone? Who's coming with me? Come, Elvis, come, lad. Oh man, look at them giant mushrooms, baby. Oh man, take some of them back with us.
He's been singing songs about mushrooms.
There you go. But Colonel Tom Parker, let's talk about that for a second. This movie that's out now, I'm trying not to give too many spoilers because a lot of people haven't seen it maybe yet. But Tom Hanks plays Colonel Tom Parker, and Tom Hanks is one of those actors he's Mr. Nice Guy, Mr. Likable Guy. He's like the Jimmy Stewart of now, and the way they portray Tom Parker in this, he's basically a really nasty, mean guy. I mean, you really hate him by the end of that movie, usually. So I thought that was kind of an interesting choice that they would put Hanks in that character. He's played he played Walt Disney. He's played Fred Rogers. He's played a lot of famous people in the past. I mean, he does that a lot now. Sully, the pilot. So this was, again, another character. It was just not expected, I think. And you disagreed with that they portrayed Colonel Tom Parker that way. Am I right?
To a point, yeah. To a point, I think for one, I mean, they're making a movie, such a big movie like this, and you got to look at the films that are they're out today, and it's very, you know, superhero driven. So,
Yeah.
you know, a good way to, and Elvis really, in many ways, he was a superhero. So
There you go.
what better way to portray him? So who's, you know, who going to make
You're gonna
the
have a
villain?
super villain.
That's Colonel Parker. And
and maybe that's the way, you know, Priscilla Presley. I'm sure they went to Priscilla Presley to kind of get the ideas for the movie and then for the script and everything. So maybe that's the way Priscilla perceived Colonel Tom Parker. You know, maybe she just didn't like him.
How do we make it interesting well, how do you make it interesting to you know, millions of 15-year-olds? You know what I mean? Because just a basic relationship between an artist and a manager isn't that interesting. It just is what it is.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's good. Sometimes
and warn people of the dangers.
Yeah.
You know, giving somebody that much control of your life.
Well, these guys were such. They were their own people. I mean, Elvis and the Colonel. They were both very stubborn people, anyways. And Colonel did a couple of interesting interviews. Colonel Parker did a couple of interesting interviews. I don't know if you've seen them, but there's one from 1987, and then he did one in 1992. He passed away in 97, in which he basically said, number one, they were talking about not touring Europe and so forth, and he said, Elvis never did anything he did not want to do. And I'm not saying Elvis didn't want to go to Europe and tour, because obviously he did. But, you know, saying it and doing it are two different things. And Colonel Parker said, Elvis never did anything he did not want to do. That was a contributing factor to getting stuck into movies. It was a contributing factor to killing yourself in Vegas, along with the fact that he was already in so deep. He felt, I'm so obligated. I have so many people on my payroll, and I got to do what I know, you know, feeds everybody. You know,
how many shows did they make him do in Vegas?
So. Shit, man. I used to know, and there's a book that Paul Lichter wrote that documented all those gigs. And now to stray a little bit and talking about Vegas, people a lot of times when they think Elvis in Vegas, they think of him instantly being overweight and sort of fumbling about. But those first 2 years in Vegas, in 69 and 70, that guy was a rocket. You know what I mean? He was wearing those cool blacks, not the leather from 68, but he was wearing those cool black suits. And he started not the jumpsuit. Well, he was kind of getting to the jumpsuits, but they weren't that overdriven. And he was, you know, he weighed 150 pounds. So that's, you know, that is not, you know, overweight Elvis. And it's sort of that takes away to me a little bit of that particular era. I think he should have, after that first year, I think by 70, 71, just me, they should have pulled him out of Vegas. They should have done Vegas once or twice a year as a special gig at the International that in 1975 became the Hilton. And they should have hit the road, and not just, I mean, they were already touring all over America, but they should have hit, you know, of course, all the places they wanted to go to around the globe. Because prior to that, he had only played, the only time he played out of America was in Canada, you know, 57 or whatever, whenever that was. So, you know, and the funny bit is, of course, all the rockers of the era, the Stones, Aerosmith, and whoever's, and well, we're not going to. First of all, they said we're not going to play rock and roll after we're 33. Oh, okay, great. We're not going to do what Elvis did. Okay, really. And then by 2020, maybe by 2018, almost every old rock band, are doing long stints in Vegas, right? Yeah. They're doing exactly what Elvis did in 1970. There's no difference. They live upstairs, they go down and do the gig. Why? Yeah. Because
5 shows a night,
a lot of bread, and it's simple. The stuff is there, and you don't have to travel anywhere, and you can just do your thing. So it wasn't wrong of Parker to bring him to Vegas. It was wrong to have him stay and do as many runs there as he did. So, and that's kind of was my point about that movie. And when you're looking at Tom Hanks, you know, I mean, Parker did a lot of great things for Elvis, and then, you know, he also dropped the ball on a number of things. And he said something interesting, Colonel Parker. I think it was 1980. It was either in 87. You can look it up on YouTube, either 87 or 92. But I think it was 87 when he said, he was asked about his role in managing Elvis Presley. And he said, anybody could have managed Elvis. Elvis could have made a hit record singing out of a shoebox. I was fortunate enough to be the guy to do it. Yeah. So, you know, I mean, he cared about the guy. There's no doubt in my mind, you know, you know, but yeah, you know, they were, none of them were easy people.
Understood. I talked to you about the new cartoon that they just released on Netflix called Agent Elvis. You haven't seen it yet.
No,
you really should treat yourself.
Yeah.
Matthew McConaughey doing Elvis. It sounds more like Matthew McConaughey, but and they're trying to recruit him. Don Cheadle is in it. He's talking about the superhero universe. Don Cheadle is trying to recruit him to be a secret agent. I've only watched the first 3 episodes, but Johnny Knoxville is in it. Tom Kinney's the voice of SpongeBob. It's playing a monkey in it that's coked up, and it's out there. It's executive produced, and you know, it's created by Priscilla Presley, so she's on board. Yeah. She's signed off on it, and it is interesting. It is entertaining, that's for sure. So yeah, you should treat yourself to that guilty pleasure. What our fans. Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, I think the resurrection of Elvis, I think it's fantastic, because I noticed it even going to record stores. Very young kids come in, 14, 15-year-old teenagers come in, and they're looking, you know, they're telling the store owner, you know, where are your Elvis records, right?
Yeah.
And
yeah,
you know, and it's funny because when you see, I noticed that when I was watching the film in the theater, all these kids are like, and I guess, spoiler alert, you know, and there's some, they do cut some footage back and forth, and when they put him in, right, during that one particular performance, jaws were just dropping in the movie. You can just watch these young kids go, oh my God, look at that guy, right? Look at how great that guy was, because they didn't grow up in the 80s and the 90s, and particularly in the 80s and 90s.
They didn't know he was there, and he was cool.
Goofing on. Well, I mean, they weren't part of the goofing on Elvis era, you know, kind of thing. You know, these kids are they're just coming in cold, and they're going, oh, that's a good song. I like that song. That guy is really talented. I have no idea. You know, people made fun of him because he ate too many donuts, but they don't know that, you know. Just as, you know, kids I teach guitar to today, 14-year-old kids want to learn Stairway. You know, and nobody wanted to learn Stairway in 1990. It became, you know, Wayne's World. You can't, you know, but now it's come full circle, and it's you know, it's the same thing with Elvis. Like, I think kids today, when they see him on the screen and they hear the records, they just they immediately connect with the immense talent that he had, and then when you've gone that far deep, then you can go back to the blues or the gospel or country music, and then you can probably quickly realize, if it wasn't for Elvis, that, as John Lennon said, the Beatles wouldn't have been, right? So I think it helps them to sort of go back and just, you know, because it's you know, if you, is this going out again? Sorry, hang on. Allow.
No,
hang on.
You're fine.
Am I still here?
You're fine.
Yeah. Anyways, I think it just brings perspective to teenagers. It brings musical perspective, and hopefully, my hope is that it brings some thirst for them to learn some history. Want to get into the history of music and see where things came from. Go ahead.
Awesome. What a lot of our fans don't know about you is that you're also a huge James Bond fan. Now, I know this because the last time I talked to you, before the last show you did, we talked for 2 hours on the phone, and half of that was James Bond.
Right.
So,
can you see the "You Only Live Twice" line up there?
Oh, cool. I can't
see it?
at this point, but
Oh.
yeah, Tom Hanks did a wonderful job playing the character of Colonel Tom Parker, but they just wrote him as kind of a villain in that movie.
Yeah.
But again, they made a solid choice to go with Tom Hanks because yeah, again, he always knocks it out of the park when he plays a character, whatever it is. Swedish,
Right.
not stirred. Thank you, Fred. So yeah, tell us how that started out. Tell us how that began for you. I'm guessing when
James
you were
Bond.
young.
James Bond.
Maybe
man,
Connery?
No. Yeah, Roger Moore is my Bond. Always will be. I
Okay.
love the Connery, but Roger Moore.
That's
is my
how I
man.
got hooked into
It
the world.
started,
Yeah.
Absolutely, because maybe for a couple of reasons. For one, 70s is kind of my favorite decade, anyways. Just like not just, I mean, musically, I like every decade, but I don't know. There's something about the 70s that I just like it, or love it. But no, we had just gotten our first VCR, and
Okay.
basically, we were getting these burned copies, VHS tapes of. The Spy Who Loved Me. That might have been the first one, and I've even got the Lotus.
It's the first one for me. 77.
Yeah. Here it is. Here's this bad boy. And
oh yeah, the Lotus Esprit, the submarine.
Right. And so yeah, that was.
Well,
I
know you've got one of these.
It just
because I sent you one as a gift. I know you got one of these because I sent you one as a gift. Aston Martin.
I got the
DB
Aston Martin next to Oddjob. Check it out.
There you go. There it is.
Yes, but it was basically the movies that I caught on to, and oh man, again probably 76, 77. Spy Who Loved Me. We went back to Live and Let Die, and his first, of course, and I guess I just like the modern, at the time, the modern feel of it. And yeah.
Oh, and again, everything that was right about The Spy Who Loved Me, evidently people don't like about Moonraker, which came next. But I actually kind of like some things about Moonraker. Like Michael Lonsdale is a great villain in that.
Oh, of course.
And
Drac.
And Jaws was back.
Of course.
But I guess it was such a cash grab, for the Star Wars era, from the late 70s, everything was going to space.
Well,
maybe that's what turned a lot of things off.
It also had the best Bond woman name, Dr. Goodhead, Holly Goodhead.
Yes, Holly Goodhead.
I mean,
I used to talk about that in my act as well. How could you introduce a Bond woman to your parents? Hey, Mom and Dad, here's my girlfriend, Holly Goodhead.
Well, hello, Miss Goodhead. Yeah. No, I mean, it's a 70s Bond film. Any Bond film. If you sort of question the authenticity of a film like that, I think you're missing the point. I think you just take the ride. You know what I mean? It's just cool. I mean, Drax is one of the best villains to me. There's been, as you know, there have been a couple of villains that absolutely despised Bond from the minute they saw him, and Drax is one of them. He was
like he's Columbo.
Yeah. He wasn't going to devise some easy escapable scenario for Bond to get out of. He wanted Bond dead. Kamal Khan from Octopussy couldn't stand Bond. Hated him.
From the moment he laid eyes on him.
Yeah. From the moment he laid eyes on him, he didn't want to, hire Bond. He didn't want to impress him or any of that. He just wanted Bond gone. And so I think if you just kind of, I don't see the movie necessarily, Moonraker now as a whole. I'll just see it for the little bits and pieces too, especially Drax's lingo, offering him a cucumber sandwich.
Yes.
I mean, that's great. You know what I mean?
May I press you to a cucumber sandwich?
Yes,
Yes.
exactly. Before I put you in this, you know, yeah, in this chamber of heat.
So yeah, and then they decided to go back to the basics with Bond, with For Your Eyes Only. Not so many gadgets.
Yeah.
You know, kind of a more less convoluted story.
Yeah, right,
simpler
Yeah.
story.
They went back to old-fashioned
And
drug dealers.
you know, and then again, and then we got Octopussy. You know, so, but and again, Octopussy is one of my favorite Bonds.
Oh my goodness! I mean, and speaking of my Swedish heritage, that's Maud Adams, the Swedish actress.
Yes.
Now she wasn't the first girl, unless I'm wrong, and I know you can feel free to correct me immediately. But Britt Eklund in Rod Stewart's girlfriend, Britt Eklund, she was in The Man with the Golden Gun. Had there been another one before Golden Gun? I think she was the first Swedish actress to be in there. Does that sound right to you?
Oh boy, we lost Rory. What's going on? The tech gremlins are taking people this way and taking people that way. I don't know what's going on. But I want to. Yaworsky and Nagel is here. Nagel is here. I do want to tell everyone this, and I've said this. I say this story more often than I don't say it, but I do want to remind everyone that Lars Nagel really was integral to this whole thing, because he found me and he got me on the BLT show on KMH, and he encouraged me and gave me advice. And that was like a huge confidence builder. So I just always want to say that. And just in case anyone hasn't heard that story yet.
Yeah, I found you. I was driving down the road somewhere in Omaha, and on side of the road, there was Yaworsky, hitchhiking. I picked you up. We went and had some oatmeal. And
it was really good oatmeal too. I had the maple oatmeal. It was really good.
Yeah. Well, see, I got the original. I had the original, but I had some Cool Whip in it. And then basically we talked about this whole Renee. I mean, it's pretty rad, isn't it? How?
Yeah, and I remember our waitress that day. Her name was Flo, and we thought that was hilarious. And she was like really nice. And when we left for like a $20 tip, and like the whole ticket was just like $9, but we gave her a $20 tip. And we have to go back there. That's what we could do, and play a show there.
As soon as we pulled out of the Lucky Charms diner, we got a flat tire.
Can you believe that? And you asked me if I knew how to change a tire. I'm like, why would I know how to change a tire? You have to change the tire.
Yeah, and you know what? I can barely put gasoline in my car, and we couldn't change the flat tire. And this wonderful farmer came up. You know what I mean?
Remember him? Great. He had like a limp. You remember? They had like a little limp.
Yeah. So anyways, he fixed the car, and eventually we got back to Syracuse. I mean, but. I mean, things happen for a reason, and it's.
And then you introduced me to Tom Cheshire, and you brought me into all the things, and I'm still wondering why you use Cool Whip in your oatmeal. I've been wanting to ask you all this time.
Well, truth be told, I dip my what are those cookies called? Those Pepperidge Farm cookies. Yes. I take a little spoonful of oatmeal.
Yeah, I know.
And then I take my Pepperidge Farms cookie and I dip it in the Cool Whip, and then I wash it down with an ice cold Pepsi. And every now and then I go straight from the oatmeal to the Cool Whip. And
But that day they didn't have Pepsi and they gave you Coke instead. And I remember thinking, I hope that's okay.
Yeah. I wanted the Pepsi challenge. Well, the only reason I switched from Coke to Pepsi was because my physical therapist, she was bitching at me that I was still drinking Coca-Cola. And so she gave me this health book. And I read that Pepsi was a little healthier than Coca-Cola. I brought it back.
Are you serious? Is that true?
It's completely true. The name of the book, it's actually about acid reflux. And the name of the book is called How to Dropping Acid. It's kind of a funny title. And so I'm reading in this book, and it's like, oh, Pepsi has... point whatever, blah, blah. And so I took it back to her took it back to the doctor the next week. And I said, you know what, Pepsi is healthier than Coca-Cola. And she's like, yeah, but she goes, no, I mean, I said, here's the book, read your own book. And she goes, oh, I said, she goes, well, it's only by 4 points. But I said, okay, I'll take that. So I'm a Pepsi guy.
I love it. Well, now we've just educated everyone in the audience about that. We're all going to go off and buy the Pepsi.
Get some Pepsi. And Rory.
Yeah. Look at, hey, Rory, we had a fun time.
The Bond villains found us out and they kicked me out.
That's what I thought
and
happened.
I come back and I hear this story about you and Renee together getting a tire fixed and Pepsi, and how about a Pepsi?
He expected me to change the tire. Can you believe it? So then the farmer had to do it. I thought all the Swedish people knew how to change tires because they make Volvos. I thought they're really good, car people.
I can't do Pepsi products because they have so much sugar in them. They have like 71 grams of sugar in them.
Wow.
Oh,
that's the
they
point.
taste better.
It's just liquid sugar. That's it.
Well, we've had some interesting meetings. I met Thomas Chesh back in '97 at a naked bowling alley. And,
oh wow! How the men must use their? Trying to think how that works. The naked bowling.
Don't get that stuck in the.
There's 3 holes, and I don't know. My mind is going places. I don't know what to say.
Well, Renee, it wasn't.
It's late.
It wasn't a pretty picture.
Tom Chesh and you naked bowling is like the coolest thing. And then you changed a flat tire out in the parking lot.
Because at that point, I'd actually learned how to do it.
Bowling. The farmer told you. Shout out to Tom Cheshire. Of course, we all love him. And so what I was trying to Cheshire, the toast of the town. Yeah, we were talking about how integral Nagel and Cheshire have been with this whole network, with everything going on at KMH and Cosmos. They're just very integral. They gave me a shot,
BLT.
that's why I'm here.
The BLT.
Yeah, BLT show. Did you talk about BLT, about how it's going live and all of that?
Well, a couple of things. First of all, we now I lost my train of thought, but I did want
Me
to
too.
But even to this, I'm thinking of Tom and I bowling naked.
Me too. The whole audience. That's all anybody is thinking about now. And when Tom sees this, he's going to be like, why the fuck are they talking like this? I'm sorry.
Very suspicious alley somewhere in the south side of town. No, but
get your minds out of the gutter.
But I see what you did there, Lorraine. I see you.
Gutter ball.
But I saw Renee. I saw Yaworsky on, and I've said this before at one of the gigs. Obviously, there's so many people sitting and playing instruments online in this country and the rest of the world, and it's just at some point it does get difficult to sort of differentiate one from the other and from the next, and not to anybody's fault. It's just there's so much output. And but I remember on one of those, I saw Renee playing a song or two, and I just loved your vocals instantly, and I loved your melodies, and I loved your songs, and I just felt like that's there's a partner in crime there, because she writes songs. She starts it. It has a begin. I mean, it has a middle and it has an end to it. And she has a really cool vocal, and it's very much your own. You know what I mean? When you talk about artists, I think the greatest strength that any artist has, it's not like how good or great the song is. It's being you. That's the only thing that's going to differentiate yourself from another artist. That's all you have. So don't waste your time trying to be somebody else. And when I saw you do a couple of those numbers, I was like, oh, it just jumped out at me, that cool vocal, and it was just right off the cuff, man, like it should be. It had a lot of soul to it, so I dug it. And I told Tom about you that night, or maybe the next day, and boom, we got you in. And hang on, something came up my screen. Did I go away there, Renee, or not?
No, you're still here.
So I mean, you look back, Renee. I mean, three years later, here we are. We're making music, and we're doing a bunch of cool shit, and we met so many awesome people, but you're up there, and Rory, you know, Tom and I have talked about this of folks that are just so genuine and that work so hard and are so talented, and we couldn't be any more pleased to have run into you guys. It's a true blessing.
Yeah, I mean, and I love the reactions here. Like Fred is quoting you as "Don't waste your time trying to be someone else." That's so true. And I always quote you, Lars, when you said in one of your shows at BLT, I remember you saying, and this resonated with me because this was my experience as a songwriter as well and performer. You said that you never really invested a lot in learning cover songs. You focused on your own songs, and you made like a lighthearted joke, like, well, I wasn't a good enough guitarist to, which, you know, you are, but you invested in your own original songs rather than always the cover songs, which was a really smart investment for you.
Well, I got to tell you, Renee, when we started out in the band world in 1993, or 2 or 3 or 4, I was not good enough. And plenty of people around me will vouch for that. I couldn't even tune the damn thing. But so our only chance really was, we're going to write our own songs. I knew 3 chords or 2 chords, and we're going to put it together. And we also knew that at the time there were, you know, tribute bands are not what they are today, right? Mm-hmm. And in early 90s, if we wanted to get some recognition, if we wanted to get on some magazine covers, if we wanted to make CDs, if we wanted to go into studios, if we wanted to tour, we needed to have our own materials. So there were a couple of moving parts to it there, but certainly I couldn't have played Sweet Emotion or whatever it was if you paid me $1,000. I just didn't have any of the chops at that point. So essentially, I think it saved us. It put us on a trajectory to become writers. We wanted to add something to the musical spectrum.
Yes.
We didn't want to play somebody else's best. Now, having said that, hey man, people do wonderful covers. You do wonderful covers. I mean, people do, you know, I'm just not personally somebody that the funny thing is, Renee, I sit home at night and I play bits and pieces of other people's songs all the time, but I never learn it all the way through. I really enjoy playing pieces of them, but I don't particularly enjoy learning, you know, anyway. So, but yeah.
Because you want to put something new in the world. You want to offer something new to the repertoire of the entire world. You want to add to that lexicon. Yeah.
And having said that, to anybody that's listening, I'm not saying don't be a cover band. And any music is great music. If you are somebody who starts a cover band or a tribute band, and that's you being the artist that you want to be, then that's wonderful. I you know, somebody asked me, you know, how can you, how does a songwriter come about? And I don't think you can make somebody a songwriter. I think it's just there. It's there when you're born into it. But I think you can make a songwriter a better songwriter. But I don't think you can necessarily make some, hey, you're going to. So there are a lot of people with amazing, a lot of musicians with great chops and great bass player and so forth. And they play in original bands. They have with me over the years in the bands, but they don't necessarily write.
Exactly.
So
yes.
Any music is wonderful, but it was just that's just how we got on our trajectory, let's say 92, 93, when we loved Social Distortion, you know, Rocket from the Crypt.
Some great ones.
These people wrote, they were songwriters. You know, Eddie Van Halen was an amazing guitar player, but Eddie Van Halen, number one, was a fantastic songwriter, and he was a fantastic arranger of the songs that they wrote.
Very much so.
You know what I mean? It wasn't just flying around on the, and he didn't even, I mean, everything the guy like that did have purpose, but the core of that guy was still a songwriter before, you know what I mean?
Yep, so, exactly.
So we always looked to that bit of it, you know, that's
and you and I write songs in a very similar way. I remember when you met me, you said to me, you're not a Joni Mitchell, you're a Carole King. And I said, oh yeah, the hook. Yeah. The structure, right? Like I love Joni Mitchell, but I just never went that direction. I always wanted the verse, chorus, verse. And I see that with you and your songs, a lot of your songs still tell stories, and they get stuck in my head because they always have that hook. And there's always like some deep heart in there. You're really one of the best songwriters alive today, genuinely. And I think everybody would agree with that. That's not just me talking out my butt. You know, that's real. Everybody knows that you are one of the best songwriters today. And it's great because I'm amazed at the amount of talent that's in the world. And it's like so hard to be impressed. And then you meet someone like Lars Nagel. The first time I saw your show, which was a BLT show, I was like, this is singer songwriter. This is like, you know, Woody Guthrie. This is like the best, like Leonard Cohen. Like you think of the best, you think Lars Nagel, you know, you think of the best of the best. And it's just such a pleasure to know you. I can't even believe that I know you.
I can't even believe you said that. But I was going to say too, are the people that I met in the last few years. Yeah, you and me are similar, and also people kind of look sometimes when I say this, but Kim Ware as well.
Yes.
Like Kim writes similar. I mean, obviously, the three of us are very, very different, but we write very similar. It's very much to the point.
Yes.
You know what I mean? It's not saying that. It's not saying that the bridge always comes after the second verse, but it's kind of, I don't know. It is simple in a way. It's straightforward, but it's the only way I can do it. You know what I mean?
It's the only way I can do it either. And I remember I had Jimmy Webb's song. I think it's called like Tunesmith or Songsmith or something. I had that in. I mean, he really believes in that too. And you think like Wichita Lineman, or By the Time I Get to Phoenix, you know, they have structure to it, and I always really appreciated that. So when I see a songwriter who does that, and Kim Ware, definitely, absolutely, man, I get her song stuck in my head all the time. So great. And I want to see this. Jonathan Duncan is watching from Tasmania, and he said, I fell in love with Lars' songs on first listen. Superb lyrics, hooky, sweetly melodic, truly authentic. Yeah, authentic. Yeah.
Transylvania, John. I mean, thank you.
In Tasmania, the Tasmanian devils are out there with us.
You know, Renee. Speaking of Jimmy Webb, he said something really interesting to me. Well, not to me, but he might have said it when I saw him play in Atlanta, or I might have read it. But he said, as far as songwriting goes, he said, when you're writing a song, it's hard not to get in the way of the song. Mm-hmm. And he said, do your very best in letting the song show you where it wants to go. Because a lot of times you want, I mean, for example, when I was in the El Caminos, and that's obviously that was a hard rock, or rock, a punkish hard rock thing, you know, you're sitting, I'm not going to write one of these songs and thinking I'm going to put it there, you know? So you're kind of writing for a band, and you're kind of writing for yourself, but at the same time, it's a dangerous little pocket to get into, because then all of a sudden you kind of, I don't know, you're boxing yourself in. These days, I just write, and okay, if I happen to write a rocker or something, well, I don't use it, you know. But I don't want to stop it and try to make a song, tell a song to go someplace else, and it shouldn't go that way. And like Jimmy Webb said, you can finish the song and it'll be fine, but it's going to come back creaking at you like an old house. You just let it happen. And Art Garfunkel said something like that too. He said, he was talking about some of the best songs where he feels like, I don't see or hear any human interference in the song. It's just freely moves, you know. It wasn't just,
wow.
You know what I mean? It's like Jackson Brown, you know, he was notorious for writing 5 different verses for every verse he had in the song, you know. And then, but eventually you got to get out of its way and have the feel, you know what I mean? Have the feel and the flow. You know, no one's going to get perfect anyways, and no one will say that. No legendary songwriter is going to ever say that they're perfect. They're going to say, they're going to probably criticize it. You're going to praise them, and they're going to, oh, you know, I messed up with, you know what I mean? As long as the feel is there and the song is moving, you're in, you know?
That's right. What was the longest song? Did you have a song that took you a long time to write, where you just kept coming back to it, but it wasn't finished, and you came back to it and it wasn't finished?
Renee, as much as it pains me to say this, they all take a long time.
Oh, really? Okay.
I can't do. The only song that went quickly. I have a song on the record, Happy to Be Here. It's called You Got Lucky. And I think I wrote it in 12, 15 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
And we recorded it the next night. That's the only time that I can remember I've ever had a song that was easy to work out. My ideas and the melodies and like a top line comes very quickly. I could probably write 4 or 5 different melodies every day of the week,
Mm-hmm.
on and on and on. But for me, that comes very easy. But then to fill in, the words and just arranging the song, should I have a second verse, or should it be a bridge there, or should it be an open part? None of it comes easy.
Yeah.
None of it comes.
Yeah.
It's a sweat show. I mean, it's just.
But it seems like it's easy when you're performing, and I'm glad you said that, because I think to a lot of fans, you make it look effortless and easy, and they just think that you just sit down and it's just automatically at your disposal to do it, Yeah. So the fact that you work at it, I mean, and I believe in hard work too. I believe that there's innate talent, but I do think that hard work really does pay off. And so I'm glad you talked about that. I think, hard work is it's not as sexy, right? But to talk about it, but hard work will get people really far.
My new record, Tomorrow Never Knows, the only thing you got to do is ask the Empress, Heidi J. Fairchild, because she heard 3,000 different versions of every one of these songs around the kitchen table for 2 years. If I played old photographs one more time, she was going to, blow up my guitar. It just wasn't. No, they're all. I hate to say it pains me to say this. The original idea, I spark them really quickly to where I almost fool myself into thinking, oh, this is going to be a breeze. Next thing you know, I can't do it. And also, Renee, I don't write one song at a time. I write 5 or 10 or 15 songs at the same time.
Wow.
I got, for example, right now, I'm writing a bunch of new songs. I got maybe 20 sheets of paper that I lay out. And there's that song. I do like a verse. I get stuck. I move to track number 4. May not even have a title, but I write a chorus to that song. And it's very it's like a pinball machine. And that's how I write the song. I never write a song all the way and then move to the next. You Got Lucky was the all the others gone everywhere.
Wow. Well, you give us, everybody here, I think about half of the people in the audience are songwriters themselves. So you gave a master class on how to write a song, and we definitely appreciate it. Rory's having some connectivity problems, as you can tell. He's trying to get back in here, but it seems like we've had some bad weather. We've had a lot of connectivity problems yesterday and today. So
it's not surprising. The bowling alley?
Oh yeah, maybe he went to. Let's go to the bowling alley. We'll bring we'll bring Rory here. Jonathan Duncan said, how do you possibly do that? It's quite amazing to me, talking about your songwriting process.
Yeah, it's basically work. I mean, it's work. It's constant work, and but I enjoy it. If I didn't, then I wouldn't do it. And I think as long as you have something to say, that's the most. You got to keep producing as an artist, right? If you have nothing new to write or sing or talk about, then in your songs, then to me it's better to take a break and then wait to do a little living, or just find something that sparks it. So you're not repeating the same. I mean, the formula is kind of the same anyway, so you've already got that going against you, or at least me.
Right.
And so I think it's just. Just finding something to say and finding that hook, and then moving with it. It's sometimes it works, and it's wonderful. And there are plenty of times when I write, I spend a long time writing shitty songs, and they go in another pile, or I delete them or whatever. You got to try them out live a lot of times too. You'll know.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. That's true. Well, do you want to play one more song?
Yes.
We're over time, but I think that it was worth it because we were learning so much from you, and we're just really grateful. So take us out of here, Lars. Lars Nagel, everybody.
I'm just gonna have a little sip of water, Renee.
Oh yeah, good idea. Good idea.
So I wrote this one maybe a week before we did the BLT Fest at the Star Bar, and it goes like this. 4. I've got a funny feeling, funny enough to trust. Tears of sorrow, tears of strife, it never gets enough. You're feeling like a sideshow, lonesome in a crowd. Your angels getting tired, still they clean you up somehow, somehow. But I'm good for that first kiss and the songs I sing tonight. A dreamer's little darling, help me make it through the night. I'm tired of getting busted, and maybe I'm too blind. People I could have trusted, I left them all behind. Give me 1 second. This thing popped up on the screen. It popped up on the screen, and I'm not sure if it deleted me. So I'm going to carry on. Just hit that little thing just to make sure. I've been down to Houston town, Nashville, and LA, but I've never known a fool who didn't have to pay. Saw you smiling in the summer sun, fighting off a beat, saying half of life is showing up. It might as well be me and Renee Yaworsky. But when I read between the lines, I was so unkind to you. Don't believe a word I say, 'cause words can tell you lies. It's true. Still I'm good for that first kiss and the songs I sing tonight. A dreamer's little darling, help me make it through the night. I'm tired of getting busted, and maybe I'm too blind. People I could have trusted, I left them all behind. Ah, yeah. Da 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 da.
Okay. Thank you, Lars, for coming and joining us. Thank you, Renee, for picking up the interview. I was having serious connection issues on my other phone. I don't know what the problem was, what happened. I rebooted my Wi-Fi. I rebooted my phone and ended up having to come in on the Elvis phone. So there it is. So
Man, I had so much fun, Rory, Yaworsky, and Cosmos. This is a great time. This is a pleasure to be on here. It really is.
So I hope that Renee and I can work out these bugs and what's happening at this time, and figure it out. And but again, I saw most of what you and Renee were doing, and it was wonderful as always with Renee. And again, thank you so much for coming on our show, going long. Hey, we did almost an hour and 20 minutes.
Oh my goodness! You know,
and we
Rory,
started 5 minutes late. So.
And I actually stopped in the middle of the song because a little thing came up on my screen that I had to click allow. So I wasn't sure if it took me off the live feed. So I figured I'm going to stop and hit it, and then at least it's on, you know.
Renee, where are you?
I'm right here. I'm
still
ready.
live?
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's go ahead and take it out. And again, thank you, Lars. Much love to you. Much love to Renee, as always.
Thank you, everybody.
Hopefully we won't have these kind of problems in the future.
I'll meet you guys at the bowling alley.
All right, let's go bowling.
Do I have to be naked? Really?
We will. It'll
Oh,
be
yeah.
all right. For the people walking in now, they're like, what are they talking about?
Hey, listen, Tom just texted me. He's already there. He's got his swimwear on. He's got his
He's got a Speedo. He's got a Speedo on.
Listen, he's got a bag of Lay's potato chips. He's wearing a Speedo. He's got a pink bowling ball and wearing scuba diving gear.
That sounds exactly like Tom Cheshire to me. I mean, I think, and a knit cap probably, or an I choose awesome.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
What
I'll be there.
what inspiration that guy. Every day he inspires me to just a lot of people to just to do something a little better.
Yeah, do something better. All right, everybody. Good night, everybody. Thank you for joining us.